Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to cover the 10 parts of the chair that's for upholstery. And first of all, when you're doing making for anything, you'll need a complete frame made of seasoned hardwood, seasoned or kiln dried wood. The frame needs to be, if it has any show wood, all that has to be finished and varnished, ready to go. I recommend putting in a drop spring unit instead of the 8-way tie because with a drop-in unit, you know your pattern is going to be uniform and exact compared with 8-way tie. It's going to be some variations. So I recommend the drop-in unit from Hickory Spring. The first part that you do with your fabric part is your decking. You'll need a measuring tape, and you'll need to make sure that the decking is proper. The second part is the inside arm, which is number 2. The second is the inside arm. The inside wing is your third part. The inside back is your fourth part. The outside wing is the fifth part. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the inside. On the inside, you want to leave those side pieces loose until you get ready to staple them together. Usually, I don't do anything until I have the outside wing, the inside wing, and the inside back ready. The thing to remember is to work slowly and use at least a 5-inch gap when you come across there. So if you're doing pull strips, you'll want to take a marker or pen and run it across your fabric as soon as you get it, the cotton batting and everything, the foam, run a pin, and then you'll add a 1/2 inch to that, and then add your pull strip. That's for your pull strip. If you're working with leather, I don't recommend using a pull strip, even though it's standard. With working with leather and fabric, the leather has a tendency to break with using fabric. Um, okay. The fifth part is the outside wing. The sixth part is the outside arm. The seventh part is the outside back. The eighth part is a skirt, if your chair or couch has a skirt. And number 9 is the outside cut the desk cover. The desk cover. And then the 10th part and final part of the fabric part is the loose cushion. I'm going to go over some simple wording and technique for you. You'll need a 1.5-inch strip for welt strips. 1.5 inch is what you cut for the single welt, and 2.5 is what you cut for the double welt. You need to always use a 1.5-inch seam allowance when cutting for sewing. Anything that's sewed has a 1/2 inch seam allowance for all your cushion tops. 1/2 seam allowance all the way around, and on the bottom, even your banding, 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this is how you mark your fabric. IB, IA, IW. Those are inside back, inside arm, inside wing. OB, OA, OW. Outside back, outside arm, outside wing. I usually do L and R circled, and C circled, and B or D is for bottom. And then I forgot what that is, but those are the terminology that I usually use. When trying to cut in the center of any type of fabric, you fold it completely in half and cut a little notch in there. That makes a V. But you don't want to go real deep because it'll show. Button and spring twine. The button twine is going to be thinner than your spring twine, but that's when you have buttons that pull through the back, and your spring twine is for 8-way tie. You need a tape measure and a yardstick. Let's see if I can get these a little bit more organized. Let's see, I've got, they're sort of mixed. Okay. This is things that you need, supplies and tools. You need gimp or welt cording. Welt cording comes in a roll about like this, and it's about $45. Carpenter square is a metal square that's used in carpentry. I like the aluminum one, so it doesn't have the rust on it. Velvets and mohair go grain down. So whenever you're doing velvets and mohair, you always go with a grain down. You have a muslin or no stretch fabric. Always when doing upholstery, you do not want anything that stretches, because when people sit in that and it stretches, it's not going to look good because it's going to have bumps in it. It's hard to sew with stretch fabric. Do not recommend anything that stretches. Synthetic or natural burlap goes on the inside, goes over top of your spring units, and then any type of springs that you have, the natural burlap or the synthetic burlap, before you put any cotton batting on. Jute webbing goes on the bottom. It's usually a 4-inch strip. Upholstery tacks, I think number 3 is the most common. You can use upholstery tacks in 8-way tie, or you can use them when you don't have a pneumatic staple gun. Cardboard strips. Those go on the inside of your arm. I mean, the inside of the outer arm. And also, in special cases, on the very bottom and on the very top of your outer back. Skirt lining material. Different kinds there. Goes on the inside of your skirt when you have a skirted piece. Decorative brass trim. And strips, I don't recommend using the strips because they have gaps in those. But those are, a lot of people use those. Tack bar strip or slip stitch. The tack bar is what you put on the outside back on the sides. Upholstery zippers and zipper foot. The zipper foot is used for home machines, and the upholstery zippers usually come in a roll. The zippers are not very expensive, but they are hard to get to because you have to have the zips and the zippers. No sag spring and clips. The no sag springs are the serpentine springs, and they are hard to work with. Once you cut them, they'll sling back, so you need to make sure that you have somebody helping you hold those. Bar springs, usually used in 1930s furniture and antiques. Coil springs used in 8-way tie. There's different kinds of foam you would use. There's a special kind of foam for the inside back, inside arm, and loose cushion. You use Western Excelsior brand. Excelsior for when you're working with antique, or if you're working with patterns that require a dense fabrication, such as an antique replication. Cotton batting, used on all types of furniture. It's commonly used before the upholstery fabric or after the what is that? Let me think what it's called. Polyfill wrap. You do the cotton batting, then the polyfill wrap. Ply grip or stitch. Ply grip is used on curved surfaces. When beginning upholstery, you want to use light leather gloves when you're doing any work, because I'm not talking about the heavy work gloves. I'm talking about the light leather ones, the ones that you like bikers use, that you can barely tell that you have them on, because you will be slipping a lot. The staples will break and they'll cut your hands. So you need to be used to that. You will get cuts if you don't have gloves on. You need customer receipt pads. Anytime a customer pays you money, you need to write a receipt. Never leave those blank. You need fabric house books from fabric houses. You need supply catalogs from your suppliers. You need machine oil from your sewing machines and your scissors. You need 2-inch upholstery pins with a head. That's for when you're doing slip stitching. You need tailor's chalk, pens, and pencils. School poster board when doing intricate patterns. I usually use school poster board when working with a pattern that for the loose cushion. When working with the other parts of upholstery, your pattern's going to pretty much self-identify when you pull it over that frame. You may have 4 or 5 inches, even 10 inches when you're working with the pattern, but you'll pull that through and then you'll cut, and that will you always use a lot more fabric than what it requires when working with the pattern. Upholstery or other scissors, upholstery shears or other scissors. Now this one I don't see a lot is a wall mount pin cushion covered in burlap. This is for your curved needles and long needles. You want to keep those needles high and away from you so they don't get damaged or poke you. Roller foot. You need a roller zipper foot or just a regular roller foot for high shank if you don't have an industrial sewing machine. You need a double cording foot on a plain sewer. This is whether you have an industrial or not. This goes on your plain sewer, and this is for your double cording. It's a 1/4 inch. You need an Empire GIMP stapler. You need a BIA fine wire stapler made in Germany. You need a zigzag home machine or a serger, only for your arm covers. The outer arm covers that are loose, you want to do a zigzag on those so they don't come loose. You need button molds, cutters, and dies, size 22, 30, and 36. And I'll hold this up here. This is most important. Button molds, cutters, and dies, 22, 30, and 36 size. You'll need the Handy Junior Button Maker. The Handy Junior Button Maker. You'll need a cushion stuffer, either electronic or old-fashioned antique. The cushion stuffer, any ones you can get, would work well. You need hog ring pliers for specialty projects, pulling different wires through. You need a serpentine no-sag wire bender. That's when you're using the no-sag wires, you'll have to bend that edge so it doesn't slip off the clips. You'll need a clinch it tool. That's when doing the 8-way tie springs, the coil springs. You'll need a bolt cutter to cut sewing machine needles and to cut the no-sag wire and different wires too. You need a medium-sized air compressor with a 70 or 80 psi. You need a carpet-covered work table. That's when you're doing, it could be low table, it could be a high table. Just whenever you're doing upholstery, you need that. You need a regular cutting table. You need C-clamps and strap clamps. I don't use the strap clamps as much as I do the C-clamps. C-clamps are sort of special, but the most clamps that you'll use is the 4-bar clamps. And if you're going to be gluing frames together or doing antique repairs, you need a 9-foot and a 6-foot and a 4-foot and a 2-foot bar clamp in sets of 2 and 4. For example, if you're working on an 8-foot couch, you'll need the 9-foot bar clamp, and that 9-foot bar clamp will be a foot larger than what you need. But I haven't seen a couch wider than 8 foot. Those come in kits using black iron pipe, and you can make those clamps any size. They have different clamps that are readily made, but they're not near wide enough. You need regular hand tools, all of the regular hand tools that you can think of. You can use a home machine with a high shank, but I recommend the Singer 1591. The Singer 1591 is the last of the industrial type sewing machines a home machine that's almost an industrial, and you can pick those up for under $400. The FAF 1245 sewing machine, you can pick those up around $2,000 to $3,000. The FAF 1245 is a really good machine. It does a good stitch. That would be your walking foot with reverse. You need a Jiffy steamer. You need curved needles for doing slip stitch. You need long mattress needles for putting in decking and pulling your buttons through. Like I said, you need a regular hammer, which is your tools, regular tools. You need snipping pliers. And the best way that I can think about those is these here. This is what you'll be using most often as a beginner. These are just the regular lineman pliers. But see how I'm holding them? I've got one finger through and two fingers over top of the thumb. So that's how you hold it. That way you can do and put the pinky through if you're working with that. See how I've got it handled? See? And that's for pulling your staples and tacks. But you'll need a black rubber mallet covered in cloth. You put the cloth over top of the head and then you staple it. You need a scratch awl. You need a top B staple puller or a number B berry picker, and that's if you don't have a scratch awl. Top B, and that's about all I have for that. Now, talking about money, what you'll have to do is collect half up front. Let's say the fabric's already paid for. You want to make sure that that fabric, if the customer supplies their own, that it's you check it, make sure it's free of flaws and it doesn't stretch, and make sure it's upholstery grade, and make sure there's no flaws in it. If it's got flaws in it, the customer can complain. You look at it, make sure that everything's good. Let's say that you work 8 yards for a wingback chair and maybe 24 yards or 28 yards for a sofa. Ballpark, each one's going to differ. You unyard every bit of that and make sure that it's good material before you start to work. A lot of times fabric houses will send you seconds, and make sure that you're not paying for a second. A second will have a tag on the selvage edge for each flaw. Make sure when you get fabric in, it doesn't have those tags in there. Trying to think. Work slow, and if you don't get the first piece in right, don't worry. Take it out with your staple puller until you get it right. Because once you get that decking in, you'll need to make sure your decking is in good. And if it's not good, take the staples out and redo it. Sometimes you have to resew a piece, especially as a beginner, until you learn to make sure that it's worked right. Your old pattern will be your new. You'll make sure you take pictures of how you're doing this. Now with pattern making, you may have just a raw frame or being designing frame. That means you'll have to use resources of knowing how to use extra material. If you're using extra material, you don't have to worry about extra seams. You'll want to have at least a 5-inch pull beyond your pattern. Okay, that does it for about now. I've been here for 19 minutes and that I've talked your leg off. So I'm going to close for now. And if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments. And sometimes I'll be posting different videos. And there's a lot of YouTube videos. Absolutely do not use spray glue anywhere on your show fabric, on the outside of your when you see people spraying glue on their furniture on the outside to glue in foam and stuff, do not do that, and especially don't do it without a respirator. That stuff will shut your lungs down. So you do not use that spray glue on anything except for joining two pieces of foam together. If you join two pieces of foam together, that's the only reason why you need spray glue. Period. These people having YouTube videos where they're spraying glue all over the place. Do not do that. I don't know where you come up with that idea, but it's not to be followed in anything you do in the upholstery process. There's a right way of doing things and there's a wrong way. You want to die early, then you'll spray all that glue without wearing a face mask. I'm talking about a respirator, not a play respirator. I'm talking about a double respirator. Do not use spray glue. Period. Now, if you're working in the furniture industry and they're using spray glue, you better by dog be wearing a respirator, or you'll die fast. Okay, that does it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm going to go ahead and end it now. I'll be doing other videos later. I'm doing Zoom Live, trying to teach people and ask questions about upholstery. So tune in there on my Zoom Live. Thank you. Have a good day now.